The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Can we do a quick sound check? I know we're getting started a few minutes later than normal, but if you could raise your hand and let me know that I'm working. Oh, beautiful. Wow, look at that.
All the hands are off.
Such efficiency. Okay, cool. We are going to get started. Our webinar today is on telling your AmeriCorps story. So we're going to talk a little bit about AmeriCorps and a little bit about how to frame your experience within AmeriCorps in a variety of different contexts and when they might come up. So we have this beautiful image here that was from Maggie that says, "For what it's worth, it's never too late to be whoever you want to be. I hope you live a life you're proud of, and if you find that you're not, I hope you have the strength to start over." So that's our welcome for today, rather than our beautiful faces. Today we're going to go over the branches of AmeriCorps. Javier is actually in the office with us today, and he's going to take the reins on that. And then we're both going to kind of tag team the Telling Your AmeriCorps Story part of that, and then we'll wrap up with housekeeping and important dates that are coming up. So I'm going to hand it over to Javier, who is going to start his presentation.
Okay. I didn't really practice this that much. Okay, there we go. What we have here. Why are we talking about this? Well, we're all AmeriCorps members. We represent each other. You know, if one of us looks bad, we make the rest of us look bad. You know, we don't want to give a bad experience about a bad connotation of ooh, this person's coming in and they're an AmeriCorps member. It's like we had a bad experience before with AmeriCorps member. We don't want you again. I think Julia told me about that happened one time with communities and schools. Luckily, they kept going with it. AmeriCorps is an option in promoting college access and success. AmeriCorps is a way to develop necessary skills for the workplace. And I can't see this last one. I'm going to have to move it. Yeah.
You'll have to talk about your AmeriCorps experience whenever it is that you start looking for work after your year of service. So it's really good to kind of think about now, what would you say about your AmeriCorps experience? How would you frame that, and how would you connect that to values of your potential future employer?
Mm-hmm. I know with my current situation, anytime I have to bring up AmeriCorps, I was Peace Corps, but you stay in America. Okay, next slide. Alrighty, here's a little bit of history about VISTAs and the AmeriCorps history. VISTA was founded in 1965 by President Lyndon B. Johnson and Sergeant Shriver.
Yeah.
Sergeant is actually not a title, it's his actual first name.
Yeah, I definitely thought I fixed that, but I didn't. That's my fault. It's not Javier's. I'll take the blame for that one.
They were trying to get VISTA up and running before then with President Kennedy, but Johnson took over getting VISTA founded after his assassination, and he took office. In 1993, Corporations for National and Community Service was founded by President Clinton, and pretty much when that happened, VISTA was incorporated under the AmeriCorps umbrella. CNCS funds AmeriCorps and VISTAs through grants.
Yep. So same year, but a little bit after the founding of CNCS, AmeriCorps was founded, and then VISTA was added to that.
You want to talk about a little bit about what CNCS is?
Yeah.
Sure.
So CNCS is the kind of government organization branch that funds all AmeriCorps programming. They do some other stuff, including, I think, Senior Corps isn't technically one of the three branches of AmeriCorps. It's kind of like its own thing, and they have a few other projects that they work on, but that's basically the department that we fall into under the federal umbrella.
There we go. Okay. All AmeriCorps programs fall under at least one of these focus areas: disaster services, economic opportunities, education, environmental stewardship. Okay. Healthy futures, veterans and military families. Other commonalities That's three things all share. Our members are volunteers, not employees. Living allowance are provided, no prior experience is necessary, and they're all full-time and part-time options.
Mm-hmm. So if you see the stars on this slide next to economic opportunity and education, that's because our program focuses on those two. There are also like subcategories. So under education, you can have student engagement, and you can have college access. We focus on college access. Under economic opportunity, there's financial literacy, there's housing, there's workforce development, and we do workforce development, but these are the two major categories that our work falls under.
Yeah, at my site, I definitely do like education and student engagement. We're first going to start with the NCCC, the National Civilian Community Corps, and I believe this is the one Dylan did, right?
He's state national.
Oh, he's state national, okay. National Civilian Community Corps, this is the unique program aspects, direct service only. Members are region-based, and as you can see, the country is kind of broken up into like 4 regions: the Pacific region, the Southwest region, Southern region, and North Central region. Teams usually consist of 8 to 10 members. They have a 6-week spike. Not really.
So essentially, what happens is for 10 to 12 months, a team of 8 to 10 people, so you're with the same 8 to 10 people, travel every 6 weeks to a different spike or a site where they would do an activity. So they might work with Habitat for Humanity for 6 weeks, and they might go to like Southern California and work with like Boys and Girls Clubs. So they travel a lot, but it's always with the same people, and it's on like a pretty steady rotation.
And they would stay also in the region that they're assigned. Like if you're in the Pacific region, you stay in the Pacific region.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
And this one does come with age restrictions. The 8 to 10 members have to be over the age of 18 to 24, right?
Yep.
Yep. Except for the team leader, who can be any age.
Yep. So don't worry, you guys can also join NCCC because you got your year Vista.
I mean, I could do a team leader, but I'm too old to be a regular team member. And here's some fun pictures that Zakia included. Can they see the mouse that I'm moving around? Oh, no. They can't see the mouse. Okay.
Yes, they can. Just kidding. Yeah. So this is Chelsea. Chelsea is the person where the mouse is. She served with our program last year and is now serving as a team leader for NCCC in the Pacific region. Mm-hmm. So the first house, I think, is the house that they did their training in.
Really nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's nice, it's cool, like, I would live there forever. Mm-hmm. The second is one of their like camping spikes. So it just kind of shows how much variety there is in what a spike looks like. And then that is her team.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I'm definitely going to be sleeping in a tent for like 6 weeks.
Yeah, no thanks.
I think it was Dylan who used this example of like the NCCC people are kind of like the jocks. They're doing the physical labor and everything. That's what he said.
I like to say that they're badasses with chainsaws.
Yeah, they do like the physical labor and everything.
That's who I wish I was, but
no.
You know.
These are being reflective of that.
Yeah. So I also go camping, and I'm like, oh, this is great. Let's go camping, guys. And then I get out there, and I'm like, why would I ever do this? This is terrible.
No. Never.
So.
Never. All right. Then we have the AmeriCorps State and National unique program aspects. It can be indirect or direct service. This one's very broad, really, with the amount of service you can do. You get there's 3 to 12 months of service with required hourly minimums and recognized brands. Like if you have seen these brands, City Year and Teach for America, they are associated closely with the AmeriCorps State and National.
Yeah. So they just I didn't know until I started AmeriCorps that they were under the AmeriCorps umbrella, but they are part of State and National. State and National is also the program that Dylan served in when he was on Cape Cod. So if you have any questions about State and National programs, he can talk a little bit more about them. But essentially, depending on how many months you signed up to serve, you have a prorated hourly requirement. So instead of 12 months with 365 days like Vista has, you have 1,700 hours, and you have to meet those hours. And if you don't meet them, then you don't
get the
award, unless you like apply for an extension and all of that stuff.
I would point out too that Asmara served in the state national program, and Samantha also served in the state national program previously, and
cool.
and I served in the state national program, so I can answer questions about that too.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. And then here we are, the AmeriCorps Vistas, which we are. We have a picture of George R.R. Martin here in the corner because he actually is a former AmeriCorps Vista as well. Alrighty, so it's a unique program, indirect service only. We mostly focus on the eradication of poverty, capacity building, and sustainability as central to service. Community engagement is required. Additional benefits that the other two don't get is we have the possibility to get the cash stipend, the other two do not. Non-competitive eligibility, that's the whole, like, if you go for a government job, right, after you get it?
Yep, so it has to be a federal government job, but you apply as an internal candidate. So you kind of get to skip some of the rigmarole of like not being an internal candidate. So
we have our 12 months of service, 365 days. We don't have a required uniform, which is nice.
Yeah, that was like a selling point on the website. And I was like, we don't have a required uniform. And I guess that would be a selling point for me, but I thought it was like really funny to see it on the website. It's like, you don't have to wear your A.
I know, and yeah, like if NCCC is like the jocks, where Vistas are like the chess clubs, right? Well, yeah. that's what Dylan said.
I also wish that I was good enough at chess to be part of a chess club. I consider myself very well-rounded. Perfect.
Cool.
Okay, so I know like some of you must be thinking, you know, NCCC, state and national, I'm not in those programs, I'm not ever doing another year of service, when am I going to use any of this information? So don't worry, we're prepared.
God, I don't like those pictures. So why are we speaking about this? This really came up when I was here at the Michigan State University Rotaract Club. I got an email from the new vice president. He was trying to contact the Vista who was here before me. He's like, Emma, what's her name? She's like, could you come and talk to my club about like what it is to be AmeriCorps Vista? I was like, Emma's no longer here, but I can come and talk to your club. You know, luckily I'm here in Lansing where Dalen and Zakia are, so I reached out to them and they also came with me and did a little bit on this presentation I did at the Rotaract Club, which was really helpful because, you know, it's kind of like a thing where it's like you serve with Vista, but you also like serve like an organization at the same time. And for me, it was like kind of difficult to talk about Vista work, what a Vista is. But when it came to like, because I'm serving with communities and schools, so I was like, oh, like I could tell you all about what communities and schools is, that's no problem. But what a Vista is, like I was not aware of it, so did not have like a great grasp and understanding of it. Luckily, Dylan and Zakia were there to help with that. So just like having like difficulty, like that's what inspired like this whole like, we should probably like talk a bit about what it is to be a Vista.
Yeah, and we like, obviously a lot of people don't like public speaking, but we encourage you very much so that if someone like reaches out to you and says, hey, will you come present on AmeriCorps, that you take that opportunity because it increases the visibility of our program and it increases the visibility of you as like a nonprofit professional. We can support you in that. We can help with like presentations and slides and like recruitment materials, anything that you need. But we want to make sure that you're prepared in case something comes up like that, so we can make sure that our program is represented and that you're doing your best to get out into the community and making yourself known. So when you do plan for those life after Vista stats, you're ready to go.
Yeah, and there's just so many benefits to what it is to be a Vista. It's like it's good to like have a good grasp of what it is, just to like say it when you get into like a conversation, because you never know when you run into somebody who actually might be interested in it. So Dylan's not here today. I don't think we mentioned that.
Oh yeah, Dylan broke his arm over the holidays, and it was pretty gnarly. So he just broke it last week. So he's been out of the office, kind of looped up on pain meds.
Yeah.
And we're hoping he'll be back. Yeah, copious amounts of pain meds. And we're hoping that he'll be back on Monday. But that's in the meantime, if you are having issues, please reach out to Zakia or I, so that we can talk about it while he's recuperating is good. I was gonna say I think recuperating makes sense.
So I was gonna make Dylan talk a little bit about his AmeriCorps experience, but he's not here, so I'll do my best to talk about it. Yeah.
Talk about it for him.
It'll be great. It'll be fine. So Dylan went to school at MSU, and he studied like video game design or something similar to that. It might have been like some media thing with some specialization in video games. And then he decided that he didn't want to do that. So he signed up for AmeriCorps and did 2 years of state and national service on Cape Cod and did a bunch of environmental work and built trails and like fed baby seals and like all sorts of like really neat stuff that you don't necessarily get the opportunity to do before you decide on your college major. So he really pushes AmeriCorps from the stance of like, if I had done AmeriCorps, I would not have gone into the program that I did. I would have had more time to figure out who I was, more time to experience the things that could have made like my decision more fruitful. So considering that, especially for those of you who are in college access programs, because you can talk about AmeriCorps and the benefits of a gap year. You can talk about how it can help pay for college. You can talk about how you can use your AmeriCorps experience in college applications. And if you have a student who is like, I don't want to go to college, it's like, not for me, I'm not ready yet, pushing them into college might mean that they're not successful there because they're not ready. And so giving them time to figure out what it is that they want to do while still doing something productive that can help them in that ultimate goal of securing some sort of financial future. Because you can also use your education award in like different educational programs. I think you can do like a yoga certification, so it doesn't have to be the same sort of programming, like a 4-year institution or something like that. But then you can connect students to things that make the most sense for them and for their life journey, regardless of what that looks like. So
yeah, I'm always about like trying to like spread the word to like the younger people about like what AmeriCorps is, because like since I work in a high school, it's like a great opportunity to spread the word. Yeah. Because it's definitely something to do, because there's like a 1.5-year gap between community college and when I went to a 4-year university where I did like nothing. I wish I would have known about AmeriCorps then.
Yeah, I took a gap year between grad school or between my undergrad and grad school, and I worked at a bagel shop. But I could have been getting like practical experience had I known about the program instead.
You regret it? I regret my 1.5 years.
No, I ate so many bagels. Another practical application is building community partnerships. So you would never make an ask to someone for something without telling them like who you are. No one's going to just give you money because you asked for it. So we have a couple examples up here. The first picture is Chelsea, again, NCCC Chelsea. And she started an early middle college program between Lake Superior State University and the Eastern Upper Peninsula ISD. And then on the right, we have Brooke, and she did a Stop the Bus fundraiser, so it supplies students with school supplies. But every time they make an ask, you know, they're like, hey, this is who I am, this is the role that I'm in, this is what we're doing, and this is why we're trying to do it. And in that, whether or not you say, hey, I'm an AmeriCorps Vista serving with communities and schools, and this is what communities and schools mission is, or whether you talk more about AmeriCorps, there's always going to be follow-up questions, and you need to be prepared in case someone that you're making an ask of or want to build a partnership says, hey, Javier, you're AmeriCorps Vista with CIS? Like, what is an AmeriCorps Vista? Then you're like, wait, I don't know. I don't know. Communities and schools.
Communities and schools is.
Yeah. So That'll help you build your community partnerships, because any time that when you come across as like not knowing what your mission is, it's really hard to connect that mission to the mission of those that you want to build community partnerships with, and that's what they're going to invest their like time and their resources and their money.
And I don't know about you, but I've had like interesting times like reaching out to like organizations or like specific people, like establishing some type of connection with them.
Yeah. Yes. We do a lot of cold calls and cold emails, and I will tell you that is always how I start, is introducing like what AmeriCorps is. And a lot of times that's because I don't have like a ton of resources also to, like if I wanted to bring in a guest speaker, I can't pay you like a $5,000 honorarium like we could when I was working at Vanderbilt. So I have to be like, hey, we help eradicate poverty. These people are national service, and they dedicate, so it kind of frames that conversation and like why they should also come and speak or do whatever for $0.
Like, yeah, you're doing good stuff. Maybe I will donate my time because you're donating your time.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
Sean asked a question about when would be the best time to start looking or applying for other AmeriCorps positions if people are interested in serving another year. And my recommendation is to do it in the spring, because your service at the earliest will end in August. And so that springtime is when our program starts recruiting for the upcoming year, and that's when a lot of other programs begin recruiting. So you'll be able to follow that timeline a little bit better. For people who are serving off cycle in November and December is when they started their service, I think you could start looking in late summer if you choose to serve another year.
You can also serve another year in our program at your site, or you can serve another year potentially in our program at a different site if anyone is thinking about doing that too. So, and we'll email you all when our positions are open if that's something that you want to do, if you want to see what else is available and what sites are there, or.
Yeah, I would also encourage people to consider serving a year as a VISTA leader.
I would too. It's way, I mean, and if anyone wants to talk about it, please reach out to Dylan or me, and we are happy to talk a little bit about like what responsibilities are and what some of the extra benefits are and that sort of thing. So. Another practical application for like talking about your VISTA service and also talking about AmeriCorps in general is representing your organization. So the picture on the left, this is from Davenport University. Maddie sent this in, I think, last year with one of her UPRs. So I might make her talk a little bit about if she has had to talk about AmeriCorps in her capacity representing the Volunteer Center. And then on the right is when Dylan and I went to a nonprofit career fair at Michigan State University, and we go and represent Michigan Nonprofit Association and like the Job Center, but also we go and represent AmeriCorps. So we kind of do double duty, and we have to be able to talk about our site and about AmeriCorps. And again, like we're there representing AmeriCorps and representing VISTA, so we talk about all three branches, and we kind of talk to people and figure out what it is that their interests are and direct them in a program that is going to really fit what they want to get out of it. And some people are like, yeah, I really want the non-competitive eligibility, and I'm like, that would not have been what I thought anyone would like claim as their primary VISTA motivator. And some people are like, I really care about like adventure, and I want to go explore and see the world, and you know, we send them that way too. So again, if any of that ever comes up, if you get an opportunity to go to a career fair, or if a college near you has a career fair, you can send those opportunities to us. You can go and represent us, and we'll give you materials and all of that stuff. Contact us, and we can work with you to make sure that you have what you need to best be able to talk about the program. Okay, so this is all stuff that you can kind of do within your service term. And I know some of you are going to be done in February. Two of you. Some of you, I don't even know if you're on. I didn't check the attendance yet. I hope you are. And then the rest, well, a lot of you are done in August. So you might be thinking, you know, my year of service is winding down. I really don't like care to go to a career fair. Like, you're really going to have to push me to get into one, and unless you're looking for things in my community, I'm not like signing up. Okay, cool. You still need to be able to talk about your AmeriCorps service. And here are some different times that it might come up. You might be planning on building your network, thinking about your next steps, who you should be strategically talking to or working with in order to position yourself to either like maybe stay on with your organization, maybe find an organization in your community that, you know, like your site supervisor might be connected to someone with. Any of that, having people review your resume and cover letters, all of that is going to come from a space where you're making an ask and having to say, this is what I've done for my past, for my past year. This is my experience and what I'm working on, and this is how it connects to what I want to do. And you're going to have to be able to, again, line up those missions. I would suggest that if you are trying to build on your network over the course of the next 1 to 6 months, to go have lunch with someone. So Maggie's helped me set up a lunch with someone in our organization to talk about different opportunities to go into work that I want to do. I really like communications and advocacy, and she does that work with M&A, but I don't work directly with her. So Maggie was able to connect me with her, and we went to lunch and talked about, you know, like different organizations that align with my values that are in the community that I want to serve in, because I'm kind of geographically constrained at Lansing, and that sort of thing. You can shadow people that you do work with and see. So Maggie is really great with transparency, and like we talk about the budget and some things like that I as a VISTA don't really have any control over, but it's an opportunity for me to see like what that nonprofit work looks like. And so if you have an opportunity over the next 1 to 6 months to shadow someone who does the work that you want to do and say, hey, I'm serving as a VISTA with our organization. I would love to do this sort of work. Could you, could I go to this meeting with you? Or could you show me what like a day in your shoes is like? But again, being able to connect to what you're doing, what your service is like, and then being able to like authentically have a conversation with them when you're at lunch with them, and they're like, oh, so what's VISTA? And you're like, well, I didn't prepare for that. I only wanted to talk to you about what I wanted to do in the future. It's going to be kind of awkward. So start doing some of that stuff. Start thinking about references. This picture is me and Sam Singh, who was the Speaker of the House. I don't know. I'm not good at that sort of thing. But I met him one time, and he, more importantly, is the previous CEO and president of Michigan Nonprofit Association. And I was like, Sam Singh, we're M&A family. And he was like, oh my God, who is this? And I was volunteering with a different organization, and they're like, this was my first time volunteering with them, and they were like, can she talk to him like that? And we talked about VISTA and about like how I was a VISTA with the organization and some of the stuff that we were working on and how that program has kind of changed since our new CEO and president started. So that was kind of like my catalyst for being able to start a conversation with him, is drawing upon those commonalities. So do it up. Okay. So you also might be looking forward to graduate school. Obviously, you can use your education award. There are matching institutions. I'm sure we'll do a training on how best to utilize that, and we have one on the website from last year in case anyone is planning on doing that before we get to it. But AmeriCorps makes graduate school applicants more attractive, but you can talk about that in your application essay, and you can talk about that if you do interviews for grad school. I know some programs do them and some don't, but it's real life work experience that you can draw on and that you can tie and say, this is how this relates to the work that I want to do, or this is how this has changed me and helped me decide what I want to do. So it's really meaningful in a way that graduate school applicants or like graduate school admissions evaluators care, I guess, more about.
I know that when I apply for grad school, I'll definitely be putting in like my work as an AmeriCorps in there.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of value too for grad school and potential employers when you say, like, I was in a really tough situation with my service and I persevered, and here's like what I got out of it because of that. And it makes you very attractive.
This is Maggie, Dylan, and I from Why Apply Day. With well, Dylan didn't wear any MSU gear, but he did wear green and white. You can't really tell from the picture, so we let it slide.
He looks more like Slytherin.
Yeah. Dylan's definitely a Hufflepuff.
Yeah.
That's okay, I am too. That's like not a drag on anyone who's a Hufflepuff.
Ravenclaw is the way to go.
I'm a Hufflepuff Ravenclaw.
I think I'm a Hufflepuff.
Yeah. I feel like if you're in service, there's a better chance that you're in Hufflepuff because they're people oriented and service oriented and like, anyway. So we talked a little bit about this throughout talking about like preparing yourself for a job interview. This webinar is very Zakia heavy because Dylan broke his arm and wasn't in the office. So sorry about all these pictures of me, but also you're welcome. So the first picture is me and my, like, I call him my Vista mentor. He served with me at Delta College, which was my first Vista, was my Vista site before I became a Vista leader. And he started in February, so we had overlap. He also did 2 years, and 2 years of Vista, and he worked on the program that I was supposed to be taking over. And he still works at Delta College as an advisor. He's okay. But I started a project there to provide free menstrual products for college students. We had a food pantry, so it's kind of just meant to be like an addition to that, thinking about what other services that we could provide. And Andy nominated me for an award that I won after I graduated, so I got to go back. So a little bit about being able to do some extra work at your host site. We encourage you, if you have a project that you want to do and it's not in your VAD, to talk to your supervisor about doing it. There's nothing that says that you can't do something extra that positions you well within like your future work that aligns you more with what you want to do after Vista.
Yeah, I know for sure. I was telling Zaki the other day, like, I want to partner with the Lansing Public Media Center to get like a film thing going over at Sexton High School.
Cool. Yeah, so definitely do it. Talk to your supervisor, see what resources are available, see what capacity there is. And then you can leave that legacy, but also make yourself more attractive when you go look for positions or apply to grad school. And also, that's in there to talk about like building your network. Like, and I know like we already talked about it, but I only knew Andy from Vista, and Andy didn't have to nominate me for an award, but he did. And so like the people that you meet now can be references. They can do all of these things for you that you might not think about now, but you need to cultivate those relationships. And then maybe in like 2 years, someone will be like, hey, I saw this position and I thought of you. Or like, we're recruiting for this position and I thought you'd be a perfect candidate. Or you'll get an email that says you won an award, and you'll be like, wait, is this fake? Yeah. So the second photo is from a trip that I took to Washington, D.C. There was a Healthy College campaign for community colleges to help connect students to healthcare options. So we did that at Delta College, and then we got to go out to Washington, D.C. And take a picture with Michelle Obama. That was pretty cool. So like that's something about like community organizing.
You got to take a picture with Michelle Obama, and you didn't post that picture. You posted a selfie.
It's fair.
Yeah. Actually, I don't have a digital version of it, so I could scan it. I should probably scan it.
Yeah.
But it was a big group photo too. You can see me because I'm very white. If you haven't noticed, I stick out pretty well from like the group of everyone else. There's like 40 people. And then this last one is about trying new things and being able to like get involved in your host site beyond just your Vista assignment. So maybe it's not starting a different project, but we have like we have a newsletter here, and I have gotten to write like editorial content for the newsletter, and that's something that I can physically take to a job interview and say, here, this is like proof that I've done this work. We'll talk a little bit more about that during mid-year training, leadership development that happens in March, because we have someone who comes in who talks a lot about that. But just finding ways to like be involved and then being able to connect this. So like if I want to do communications work, I have something that says like, look, I've done some sort of communications work. If I want to do like community organizing or outreach, I can talk about promoting like the Healthy College campaign and that sort of thing. If I want to talk about like gender issues or anything like that, I can point to the first demonstration. So making sure you have those different experiences that position you well with a job interview, and then being able to speak about how that connects to the work that you're applying for. Okay. But how do you know what to talk about? Okay, like I don't know what to say. I have that problem too. I say a lot of things. So I tend to say too much. So I would also encourage you to like go through this exercise if that is your go-to. So I encourage everyone to start by coming up with some sort of elevator pitch. I'm not going to go through these examples on the side until the very end, but these slides will be available, and then the recording will be available so that you can look at the breakdown of how this works. But every elevator pitch has 4 essential components. The first is like a basic introduction. So on the left, I have an example about building community partnerships, and on the right, I have an example that might come up in a job interview if someone asks you to tell me about yourself. So I might start with like, hey, I'm Zakia Solomon. I'm an AmeriCorps Vista leader serving with Michigan Nonprofit Association's Pathways to Employment AmeriCorps Vista program. So that kind of is helpful because it defines my role, it defines the organization I serve with, which also like holds weight in your community, and it outlines Vista. And then on the right, this one's really long, so I'm definitely not going to go through that one, but it is available for you to do that. The second section is about your past work and what you're doing now. So things that you might want to ask yourself is, what does your organization do? What's your organization's history? Who does your organization help, and what is your role? So in building a community partnership, I might say, AmeriCorps Vista members dedicate a year or more of their life to fighting poverty by building sustainable programs that address local needs. As a Vista leader, I manage 15 of our 32 Vista, out of 32 of our Vista cohort, providing them with professional development opportunities and mentorship throughout their service term. So it talks a little bit about the organization, it talks about what we do, and like frames the conversation so that there's some context for what you want to do in the future and what that ask is. In a job interview, you might talk about like why you joined AmeriCorps, what your responsibilities and your like Vista assignment description was, or what your educational background, if it doesn't necessarily apply to Vista and your education, if talking about your education makes more sense in that context, then talk about your education. So I can say for the past 3 years, I've been serving as an AmeriCorps Vista member, 1 year as a Vista and 2 as a Vista leader. And during this time, I've managed a program of social media accounts, increasing engagement up to 700%, created infographics and marketing materials, written editorial content for digital and print publications, and managed media relations. So this is like a communication specific, and it's not addressed to any organization specifically, in particular. But I would want to pull out whatever like the values of the organization are throughout this, or whatever the position description responsibilities are throughout this when I am talking about, like when I'm answering that tell me about yourself question. When you talk about the future, in building a community partnership, you might say, what task are you trying to accomplish, or what outcome are you hoping for? So our Vistas are currently about halfway through with their Vista service term, and I'm planning a leadership development training for our cohort to help get them to start thinking about and preparing for life after their service term. So my ultimate goal is to prepare you and to make sure that you are successful in finding work or grad school or whatever it is after your service term. And in a job interview, that might look like, what are your career goals? Or like, how does your experience help you determine what it is that you want to do? And maybe it's for the last couple of years, I've done this and it was terrible, and I don't ever want to do something like that again. Like, that is a valuable lesson to learn, but you want to connect your experience with how it shapes the trajectory. I always have such a hard time with that word. With your like career educational trajectory. And then at the end is like your ask, and you want to consider like what values or goals does the person you're talking about have, and then what is it that connects you to them, or what connects your experience to those goals, and then what you want. So being really specific about what that ask is. So in an email, I'd say, as someone who is an expert in resume building and an advocate for national service, we would be honored to have you host a workshop at our leadership development training on translating your year of service to a resume. In a job interview, it might be more about like why you want the position, or why you're a good fit for the organization, how your values align with their values, or how your goals align with their goals. But this, and I know this like definitely took more than 30 seconds to talk about, but you should be able to concisely put it all together so that saying like, what is it that you want? My name is Zakia. I'm a VISTA leader. This is my program. This is what my responsibility is and what I'm trying to accomplish, and this is how you can help me, is all like succinctly laid out. So we have an example, and this is the same example that is broken out through those 4 different steps, but it's all succinctly written so you can see how it flows. And this might be an email introduction or an email ask that I make and send out to someone who I want to come present at one of our trainings, or something to that effect. And then this is, you know, maybe something I would say if someone asked me to tell me about yourself. It's kind of long. I might be a little frustrated of this Mr. Canada answered this long, but that's because I had to take notes. But it's a good place to start to at least figure out why you're a fit and how that how your experience ties into that work. And then if you want to narrow it down later, great. Like, go ahead and do that. But it'll help kind of focus what your efforts are and what you're trying to talk to people about. Okay, I talked a lot. Have any of you had an experience where you've either had to talk about AmeriCorps? Do you have anything coming up where you have to talk about AmeriCorps? Are there concerns that you have about like talking about your experience as it relates to like a job interview or something like that that you want to talk about while we're on the line? No, that's okay.
So Jennifer said she has spent a lot of time explaining AmeriCorps Vista to volunteers.
That's really a good example that I feel like I should have included in here. No, I think that's really great. Especially, I mean, obviously getting volunteers on board with your organization and to support the work that you're doing, but also people who volunteer might be willing to volunteer in a greater capacity. So.
Yep, she also says that she has found that it helps them understand what they're trying to do and why they aren't also tutoring.
Yeah, that's good too.
Sarah Hardigan said, when I was flying home, I had a guy sitting next to me asking what I did and what AmeriCorps is. So she had to do it on an airplane.
That's like the most uncomfortable time to talk to anyone about anything, so kudos.
See, I think I'm the opposite of everybody because or at least I'm that person. I like airplane talking, but I don't initiate the conversation, but I'm always really happy when I get to talk to someone new on the airplane.
I guess I would have no problem talking about myself then. But just like idle chit chat is like so uncomfortable.
I don't like to talk about work. When people try and talk to me about work outside of work, I'm always like, ugh, capitalism. Like, oh, why is this where we derive our value? Like, I'm a terrible person to talk to about work outside of it. And but I talk to my partner all the time about the work that we do, and he has a lot of respect for it because he's like, you guys just get thrown into the deep end and you're like expected to do all of this and there's like no context and you only have a year to do it. So we went camping. The one time I go camping every year and I think it's a good time. And I'm like, oh, I'm real frustrated because they didn't tell us where the campsite is in this national park. And also I don't have service. Like I can't find out where it is. So I'm just like checking through, hoping that I like run into these people. And we get there and I'm like, nah, I'm going to bed. Like I do not want to deal with you people. And I'm just laying in my tent and I can hear John talking about how cool Vista is and how like much he respects Vista. And I'm like, I'm not out there, and like how cool AmeriCorps people are. And it was like really heartwarming. So I think sometimes like being in the thick of it, we don't value the work that we do as much, or we don't have the same sort of appreciation for it because we deal with all of the challenges and all the struggles that come with it. Don't let that influence how you talk about AmeriCorps or how you talk about your experience or how you talk about yourself. You're not like just an AmeriCorps Vista. You don't only make $12,000. Like none of that. Don't let that define what experience there is when you can define it by like the values and the work that you've done during your service term.
So that's a really great point. And Jennifer also mentioned that when you talk about AmeriCorps and Vista, you're actually able to develop better connections with other people who have served that you might not have necessarily known prior to serving. And then also, every time she has mentioned being a Vista to other people at like local colleges and universities, a lot of them are already aware of it. So that she's surprised that they're a good knowledge base, but also about those personal connections that she's able to form. Mark's asked a really great question. If I feel as if I don't accomplish everything in my VAD, how can I talk about what I did during my year of service?
I think there are a couple of things with that. I think, one, you can talk about what you did accomplish, whether that's in your VAD or it's something else that you do. So the mentor project thing was not in my VAD, but it's something that I did and it's something that I can talk about. During my first year of service, I didn't do anything on my VAD. By the time I had started, a lot of it had been offboarded to other staff members. And it was essentially already sustainable in that. So I didn't accomplish what a lot of my VAD was, and I had to kind of create for myself some of the things that I wanted to have on my resume and what I wanted to do with my time. But also you can talk about like what your responsibilities were and like why you did it, why you weren't able to do them, and how you learned from that too. So when you talk about your experience, especially within like a job context, talking about growth and what you've learned could be more important than some of the experience you've had, just depending on how you frame it.
And then also your VADs are changeable too.
Yeah.
Like they're not set in stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my VAD, like I felt like I was doing a lot of stuff that was not included in my VAD, and I just reached out to Dylan and Maggie and got my VAD changed.
Yeah. So they are living documents. If you're not able to do some of the stuff on your VAD, or if you're doing extra, you can reach out to us and figure out if there's something that we can do to do that, to adjust. Okay. Does anyone else have anything that they want to talk about or anything that they want to ask? I don't want to cut off any of the conversation. No? Okay, that's okay. That's good. Okay, so then we are just going to go over housekeeping. Everyone's favorite part, because that means we're almost to the end. So for December start vistas, your on-site orientation checklists are due January 19th, which I think is a Saturday, so maybe the 18th. But get them to me like whenever you have them. January 21st is MLK Day of National Service. So we have a question for you all on how many people are either participating in a project or leading a project. If you could raise your hand, or if you want to tell us what you're doing so we can share it, please let us know too so we have an idea.
June is also raising her hand. So June's working on a project, and Ashley's working on a project. I think that might be it. AMSIST is open to joining a project that might already be occurring, and then Alexis is contemplating joining a project too.
Okay. Alexis, I'll send you an email with the OSAT as a reminder and as a document for you. If your office is closed on MLK Day, I would highly encourage you to find a project, but MLK Day is a federal holiday, and so if your service site is closed, you are not required to serve. If MLK Day is not closed at your site, it being a federal holiday does not mean that you get it off. It has to be recognized as a federal holiday and by your host site. But we would still really encourage you all to get involved in the service project and treat it as a day on, not a day off.
Sarah Hardigan is taking the Lenawee Youth Council on a college tour, or having that same group volunteer at a local agency. It looks like there's a lot of people who are open to joining projects. Sean in Grand Rapids is interested in serving that day. So Maddie or Suzanne, I don't know if you guys have any projects going on, but maybe you can connect with Sean. And then Trish said she doesn't have any projects planned, but she did actually create a video about Martin Luther King Jr. a couple years ago, and she would like to share it with the cohort. So Trish, I would recommend doing that on the Facebook page for everyone. Yeah. Or we can send it out.
Yeah, or if you send us a link or something, we can send it out too. There's also a site, and I can put out the link for this too, where you can search for MLK projects that are near you if they're registered. So there might be some projects that aren't registered that you can get involved with, but if they're registered through the site, you're able to look up kind of easily. Sean, Maddie says that she's hosting multiple projects if you want to join her.
I'm going to give a shout out to the Flint people, because all three of our Flint people are doing stuff on MLK Day. So you guys win Best Region Award, Best Region Participatory Award.
Y'all got 6 months to step it up. January 31st, your timesheets are due. You do not need to send in your monthly report for January. We have our quarterly progress reports due through CVent on February 8th. And so January's monthly report will just be kind of wrapped up in with that quarterly progress report. So no need to do both. And then we'll be sending out the CVent links probably next week. And then that will give you 3 weeks to fill them out and to report on them. They'll report through January 31st. And make sure that you sit down with your supervisor and go over everything with them prior to submitting it. Sometimes I get people who are like, oh, I filled out the QPR and then it crashed. So now I have to start over. And I'm like, well, if you just filled out the template and went over it with your supervisor, it wouldn't be a problem because you could just copy and paste it. But, you know, just a thought. It might save you some time later on down the road going through that. So, okay. Does anyone have anything else? Maggie, Javier?
Nothing.
No, that's because I did an excellent job. Okay. Self-care and positive self-talk is my resolution. So, okay. Well, we hope that you have a great rest of the day and the rest of the week, and we hope that your 2019 has gone off to a good start. Definitely better than Dylan's.
Yeah, no broken limbs is my resolution.
Yeah, good job. That's a good one too.
Read more.
If you're in Detroit and you haven't responded yet, let us know when we can get together with you for lunch. Please.
Cool.
Okay, go forth and live your best life.
Bye.
Bye.